Good afternoon, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. It's been a relatively quiet couple of days. In fact, I ended up ultimately not having anything to really make a video on. I meant to mention that in a post last night, but I don't think it ever uploaded, unfortunately. I live in the boonies sometimes. I have Wi-Fi issues, so I think that was what was going on there. So if I caught you by surprise, I apologize there, but here we are now. It's a usual thing on the channel. Anyone new that subscribed, I saw that quite a few people actually have come in over the last couple of weeks. To those of you that'll end up watching this one, welcome. Good to have you here. But on Friday night, Saturday morning, I always will put up a weekend forecast, just so you have an idea of what to expect if you're planning to do anything on, let's say, Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday. All of it depends on the timing of when I get off work, etc. But anyway, for this weekend forecast, not a whole lot to really talk about here. It's a couple of little small shortwave systems that'll be bringing in mostly snow, a little bit of rain to the southeast, and maybe a marginal risk of severe weather on Sunday. Not the most impressive thing I've seen. We'll keep an eye on it in case it does uptrend, but I'm highly doubtful of that as of right now. So we'll go ahead and click on the marginal risk, just so we are clear on who is at risk, so to speak. But as of right now, it's the same area that experienced that last severe weather threat, although the dynamics are a mere shadow of what we had dealt with previously. But anywhere from New Orleans to the southeastern Gulf Coast of Texas, there is a marginal threat of severe weather. Few storms may contain like some large hail, isolated damaging wind gusts, maybe even a tornado or two. Well, depending on how things go, if it uptrends, or let's say there's an increased wind or tornado threat, I'll talk about that. Maybe if there's a significant enough hail threat, I'll do that as well. But for the most part, I think it's going to stay as is. That being said, that's really the only thing to talk about on the severe side. One big topic to talk about on the weekend forecast is the temperatures. It's going to be a very cold weekend for a lot of folks. Unless you're towards the southeast, where we have a little bit of a ridge that's kind of set itself around the east coast here, you're going to have a pretty cold weekend, actually. It's going to be pretty cold, I would say. So here we are looking at our time frame here in the left corner. This is getting into overnight into Saturday morning. We're getting into the negative temperatures far up north. Out west, we're pretty much below freezing anywhere in the mountain ranges, and even towards the west coast, we're definitely cooler than average. We're dealing with the 40s and 50s as lows for this time of year. And we don't really get too warm either. When we go all the way up towards, I'd say about 6-7 o'clock, which will be about peak heating for this area around here, I don't see a lot of 60s, to be honest, which is kind of hard to believe. It's a little bit below average for you guys. So in any case, just make sure you have a way to be bundled up. For me, that temperature doesn't really seem like much, but we have to remember which area we live in. So for you guys, just stay warm. This is an area I'm a little bit more concerned about. We may see some wind chill advisories issued further up north, and watch how this cold air really starts to spread south and eastward. So this is towards Sunday afternoon, but see where this warm air stays stationed. It's all going to be towards the Gulf. Anywhere else around the country, it's going to start to really invade, especially as we get in towards Sunday night into Monday morning. We have areas like Oklahoma City seeing temperatures below freezing. We're getting into the teens around Kansas, the single digits around Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and then we're getting into the negatives the further north we go. So brace for a cooler than average weekend. Even for areas a little bit further to the south, it's not going to be like we're in the 60s or so, but nonetheless, it's definitely going to be a far cry from what we're dealing with up here. That being said, let's go ahead and look at what kind of precipitation we could be dealing with across the country. Here's our winter storm Cassandra about to exit the country, becoming a non-factor for the most part. A lot of that snow is going to end up staying north of the border here. Light to moderate snow at best may fall around the Great Lakes and then around the northeast. Then we get like a little secondary system that pops up here in the northwest. We'll have to watch this line right here between Nebraska and South Dakota for heavier snowfall totals. It's going to be the bullseye. Could be a couple points where we get a wintry mix, but I think for the most part we're in a predominantly colder area. So most of this will end up falling as frozen precipitation. And then, of course, as we head into Saturday afternoon, we get a little bit of convection popping off here. Some showers are possible across Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, of course, too, and then heading into Missouri. And this moisture is actually what's going to be feeding into this wintry system. Would I call this a winter storm? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not the one that makes up the rules on that one. So we'll have to see if this one gets named or not. I have to actually look back and remember what the L name would be for this season's winter storm. But here's our moisture feeding in from the warm sector, and this is what's also going to play a factor in our marginal severe threat on Sunday. So probably be a late Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoon type event, if it even happens at all. But we can see several little yellow blobs over here within this rain here. That represents heavier showers, thunderstorms possible over here too. So we have to keep an eye on that. But it's going to be, of course, mainly contained towards the Gulf states. The further to the north we go, the more stable the air is. And as a result, this is mainly just going to be rain. It might be a little bit of a dreary Sunday for you guys. So just make sure you have the umbrella ready if you're going to church or you're going to the football game in the South. Well, actually, it's playoff season. Excuse me. What am I doing? But if you're planning to go out to the bar to watch the football game, I should say, make sure you have the umbrella with you. Out west, we have multiple rounds of these shortwave systems bringing in some snow with the cold air in place and a little bit of moisture it's bringing in. Beyond that, though, not a whole lot going on, and that'll persist all the way into Monday morning. So that being said, now let's go ahead and take a look at what our snowfall totals may look like. They won't be the most impressive, but nonetheless, it's worth taking a look at. So here's the blend of model. Oh, excuse me, not the blend of models. Here is the mixture of models that we look at here. Starting with the Euro. Of course, towards the higher elevations, we're going to get some moderate to heavy snow, some significant snow, especially towards the Rockies. Looks like Denver's in action this weekend. We're going to be seeing about an inch or two possible around those regions, around the valleys. Towards the higher elevations, those kind of pick up a little bit. Like I said, the main area to watch outside of the mountain ranges definitely seems like it's going to be this state line between Nebraska and South Dakota. We're looking like we could see isolated pockets of maybe up to a foot of snow. I think it's a little bit bold, but that's just what the Euro has given us. There's plenty of other models we can look at too. And then it's a nice little stretch where we have an area of potentially 6+ inches of snow. And then there's a nice little swath where we also can extend that out to about 2 to 4 inches. So it's a pretty solid storm system that the Euro is depicting. We look at the Canadian model. It's a pretty similar look. Slightly more aggressive on the totals. Not sure if I'm completely on board with that. GFS is on a similar look. It's a lot of trending towards about a foot of snow on this state line here. And of course towards the Rockies, we have higher totals, especially the ones closest to Denver. Then out to the northeast, small pocket towards the Adirondacks, where we have about a foot of snow possible, according to the GFS. I do think that storm track is legit, and there is a chance where we could get another healthy coating of snow there. Then when we look at the NAM, it's a pretty similar look. And then, of course, NAM 3 kilometer, very similar look. Slightly more aggressive totals as far as the state line area is concerned around Nebraska and South Dakota. So now that we've looked at that, let's go ahead and get a preview of what the blend of models has. Of course, a lot less aggressive on the totals. Not too many areas getting above 6 inches here, unless you're towards the mountains over here towards the northwest. As far as the blend of models is going, it has Denver looking at maybe about an inch of snow, more so than anything else. Not quite as not quite as bearing as far as the final totals are concerned. Same thing with the Adrian Dax, it's a little bit lighter on the totals, which I was somewhat expecting, to be honest. About an inch or two, maybe 3 inches possible in some spots. Could be one pocket where we could get up to about 6 inches. But it's a nice little stretch of areas where we're about 2 to 4 inches. A couple of pockets of heavier snow possible. I still think there could be a spot where we could get up to about maybe 10 inches. That's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm not gonna rule it out on this little corridor right here between South Dakota and Nebraska, and even parts of Iowa. Let's not forget that this swath does expand a little bit further to the east. As far as the mountains are concerned, we could easily see up to about a foot, maybe even 2 feet of snow towards the Rockies. This is stretching all throughout the ranges here. The Sierra Nevada is finally starting to slow down here. We've been getting pelted here all month. It's nice to see them starting to get a little bit of a downtrend on the totals. I'm sure you would like a little bit of a break at this point now, to be honest. Hasn't completely taken out the drought, but this definitely was a helpful dent, despite the fact that it all kind of fell at once, which is not the most ideal of situations, to be honest. But that's what we have going on for snow. As far as ice is concerned, I'm not really too worried about that. It's going to be pretty minimal, as we can see here. Nobody's really got a chance of being above 1/10 of an inch, and that's where travel issues start to begin. And then eventually, as we increase in the totals, eventually power outages become an issue. But nothing really going on there. So there's some stuff going on this weekend, but it's relatively quiet, which I'm pretty sure a lot of us are more than happy with. But anyway, this is the end of this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. If it was, of course, do me a favor, drop me a like, and if you haven't, do the double click where you like and subscribe. Of course, I'll have other content coming on throughout the week, especially as we get towards more quieter times. And of course, once we get to about maybe, I'd say, mid-February, I'll have a whole seasonal outlook in regards to spring. But one step at a time, though. But until then, this has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. You guys take care, and I hope you have a good weekend.